Well, good afternoon. It's Thursday. The trusty blazer has been dusted off, and that is when you know things are getting serious. Yes, it's time for the 660 Club, and this is where you get to meet 6 game-changing startups in 60 minutes. 660 is designed to give you a fast, no-friction access to startups who are inventing the future, and that's exactly what we do here at CoCubed. For those of you who haven't met, my name's Jeremy Bassett. I'm CEO of CoCubed, and here's a 30-second overview of what we do. Well, at CoCubed, we help to bring transformational disruption to industries through connecting the disruptors with the corporates. And so we set ourselves a challenge. How do we make it easier, faster, and more affordable for corporates with challenges to find startups with solutions? And the answer to that is Go Partner. Here's how it works. Drop us a brief, and in 24 hours, our network of scouts will get to work to curate 10 startups overnight that we think are right for you, and they'll land in your inbox the next day, all for $4.95. If you like what you see, we can arrange for them to come and pitch. And if you're interested in running a pilot, we'd be happy to run a partnership workshop to turn those ideas into concrete plans. We're looking to disrupt ourselves. Go Partner is the answer. So if you're inspired by the startups that you see here today, but you've got a specific mobility challenge that you would like to tackle, then share your brief, swipe your credit card, and let's go partner. You'll find more details in the expo booth right after this if you're interested. So for now, let's get this show on the road, and here's how it's going to work. In just a minute, we're going to hear from our guest speaker. Then we'll dive right into the quick fire pitches from 6 startups who are pioneering the mobility industry. Then you're going to have the chance to meet companies and find out more about them in the networking zone, where you can talk to the presenters, ask questions, and also meet other club members. And if you want to see more details or request a meeting with anyone that you see here today, then you can head to the expo booth after the event and find out more there. So right now, it's my privilege to introduce our guest speaker for today, Ivan Ollivier. Ivan heads up Nissan's innovation labs in Europe, and since opening in 2017, the labs have supported transformational projects across areas such as electric vehicles, energy usage, connected mobility, and manufacturing. With over 50 proof of concepts being launched, the labs is one of the huge successes that have come out of innovation in the mobility space. And to tell us more, please welcome Ivan. Ivan, welcome to the club.
Hello. So you hear me well?
We can, yeah. Thank you for joining.
So I apologize for my jacket, but I've rolled up my sleeves and doing this, etc. But that's fine. Okay.
This is day one for me. It's been 9 months since this thing's been dusted off.
Okay. Thank you so much for receiving me. That's a great opportunity.
Not at all. So, Ivan, I mean, why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about what you do at Nissan?
Okay, so I'm, as you mentioned, we launched the initiative of the Innovation Lab in 2017, so it's roughly 3 years now. And I'm in charge of, I was in charge of putting up the strategy of the innovation, pan-Europe, and that includes Russia, and then deploy that strategy. So we took roughly a good 9 months to set up that strategy, to decide on which verticals we wanted to work on, to decide whether we would have corporate entrepreneurs, as we call them, people coming from inside the Nissan that we will train to become entrepreneurs and develop a series of different startups, which we went to. And then all the ecosystem of startups, of coaches to help those corporate entrepreneurs generate and mature ideas, which quickly we want to bring back to the business. And I think the key of the success is that those ideas don't get stuck working together with the startup, but they go very, very fast back to the business. So we put a big specific governance in place to accelerate that.
So lots of key questions to be asking in terms of where do we focus? How do we make it happen? What are the support structures that are around it? It's 3 years on now. Talk us through how the labs work.
Okay, so couple of data points. We started really truly beginning with financial KPIs. And so I've heard a lot of labs because we benchmark many labs. We benchmark over 70 labs.
Wow.
Not so many were financial driven, but we said if we want sustainability, we need to put some financial KPIs. But we also had one of the very strong objectives, which was to transfer the culture beyond just the function of R&D and infuse innovation throughout the organization. So we creating small little MOOCs. We receiving over 500 employees to the lab. Every single new hire, we try to bring them for 1 day immersion, and they work on innovation approaches, innovation tools, on really practical, tangible elements. So we try to diffuse this. But I would say one of the core element was to really support the business going beyond what their current plan is and foster innovation through their functions.
And that's a fantastic objective. I think, and perhaps having it in that order as well is the right order. Financial means that you deliver the results, which means that you're sustainable. And, unlike a lot of innovation initiatives, won't be the first thing to get cut when there's a recession. And then the second thing, they're transforming the culture. 3 years on, how's it working? Are you finding that you're able to fuse that innovation culture into the organization?
Measuring the innovation culture through the 17,000 employees of the scope of Nissan Europe is a bit of a challenge. But we've done some internal challenges, like we've launched some a call for ideas across employees. We've done it 2 years in a row. The first year we had 500 ideas submitted. Second year, 2,000 ideas. It's a pretty substantial amount when you consider 17,000 employees. And this was done including manufacturing people. So they don't always necessarily have access to computers, or they can submit ideas, etc. What I mean by this is there's plenty of ways to diffuse it. But and there's a sense of pride of doing this. If you think about, we also have corporate entrepreneurs, or 6 corporate entrepreneurs who are working on the different verticals that you mentioned earlier. And I think one of the sense of pride was actually one of the easy measure was the beginning of COVID. The team working in manufacturing instantly pivoted, leverage on the 3D capability, all those connection network to produce very quickly masks, but also leverage on network of startups, government ecosystem to get those masks qualified, approved officially, etc., so they could be distributed in less than a week or 2 weeks. So you can see the speed of reaction, the way the team is working, the way the team is pivoting, easily shifting based on I think those are the method, the culture that has been infused. But also, as I said, I'm pretty proud of it's. We've created a whole ecosystem, which is a profit center, and that's kind of a major shift, actually.
That is a major shift. And so talk me through what you've delivered in 3 years. We've got 50 pilots, and then a financial.
We generated over 5,000 ideas, if not more. We've trained over 700 people, including 250 people within the plant. We've basically digitalized the plant. We've applied the manufacturing 4.0 within the plant. We have, out of the, let's say, most of the ideas, it's a very like a venture capital, 50% of the ideas were gone. There were big failures, and teaching the organization to accept failures is something really challenging. 30% would self-fund, and 20% are basically my unicorn, and they're delivering massive amount of return, and that makes it on a profit center, actually, where we deliver over 4 million.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah,
it really washes its face and justifies the existence, and hopefully mobilizes the resources you need to scale it. Well done, Ivan. That's amazing, and a great testimony to what's happened in 3 years. I'm fascinated though. Obviously, the automotive industry is by no means one of the faster moving industries in the world, and life cycles are traditionally longer. what are your tips to people that are in innovation roles who are looking to drive change into their organization? I mean, how do you make sure that innovation is sustainable and delivers the change that the organization wants from it?
Again, going back to the benchmark, many different labs that we met, not just within the car industry, but others, they were talking about pretty long-term horizon. And we felt we needed quick wins, just to demonstrate to the organization the power of the method, the power of the tools, demonstrate the governance before we would go to a bit further upstream. So if you talk about those McKinsey horizons, we were pretty close to Horizon 2 before jumping to Horizon 3. And you create credibility, you create confidence level, and then you move on. I think this is really one of the key for success. Second one is and actually you will have at least one witness today around the way we work with startup. I think you have to definitely, we went for open innovation, leveraging on the R&D, the capability, the agility of startup. That helps you gain so much time to assess business models. You need to have financials in mind. You need to have this business model. Maybe one thing that you need to be cautious is you have to put yourself into the shoes of the startup, the complexity, the cash flow, etc. Large groups take a lot of time to decide. Usually, there's a lot of governance. So how can you make it a little bit more of an agile organization so that you can quickly characterize the startup, you can quickly pay them, you can quickly work with them, you can quickly deliver data to them, which is sometimes a bit of a challenge. But find a way to make this a little bit more soft, if you want, and fast relative to those big, large corporations. And on the other side, also help the startups if you can, or help your ecosystem, opening it to the network of the companies, opening up to scaling possibilities to, we have many dealers outside France, so throughout Europe, throughout the world. So create a win-win situation so that you don't just leverage, if you want, from the ecosystem, but you also give out. And I think the give and take is a pretty critical element.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, Ivan, thank you so much for what you've given us today. I appreciate your insights. And congratulations with what you've achieved over the last few years. That's amazing testimony to the idea that you had initially, but also the execution of that. Well done.
Thank you.
Very cool. All right, now it's time to dive into the pitches. So these are intentionally fast and furious, just 2 minutes each. They're designed to give you a little taste into each company. And then hopefully, if you like what you see, you can connect with them in the networking zone right after this, or find out more about them at the expo booth. So it's time to jump into our first pitch. And when it comes to public transport, every customer wants two things. They want a hassle-free journey at the best possible price. And answering those wishes is our next startup from Fertig. Please welcome Jean Matta.
Hey, welcome. Ticketing in public transport is a pain, right? I mean, you've all experienced it. It's often very cumbersome for users, and it's always expensive for operators. Making things easy for both sides, so for the users and the operators, is what Fertig is all about. So for the user, you simply swipe across before boarding the vehicle. Then you use trains, buses, trams, boats, cable cars, whatever. At the end, you swipe back and get the optimum price for whatever you've traveled. Now, this is what we're doing for the user. For the operators, you can forget about all the heavy hardware with the high investment and the high maintenance cost that you usually incur. Our software is your new ticketing hardware. With this, we are clearly the market leader in this field with over 1 million trips per month now, and exponential growth, as you can see on the slide. We've tripled our ticket sales every year. So far, COVID is going to slow that down a little bit, but we're still going to double that year. So we are really confident. We're doing that mainly in the German-speaking countries so far, but we're in discussions and running pilots in 5 other European countries, as well as Dubai. So we've shown that this can be done at scale and is loved by users in Switzerland. We've shown that we can quickly roll this out into new countries, such as Germany and Austria. So now we're on to scaling this solution to more and more countries to get closer to our vision, to be the simplest way to everyday mobility for everyone, everywhere. Thank you.
Jean-Mathieu, this is amazing. I mean, look at that growth curve. You don't see too many like that. And I know you mentioned things have dropped off a bit since COVID, but presumably COVID's been a great door opener to helping unlock, there's a huge appetite for ticketless travel now. Talk me through, though, what are you doing to help public transport during coronavirus times?
Yeah, actually, obviously for public transport, it's a big problem. But we've had the opportunity to really make this an opportunity for us. So obviously, no touch channels are on high demand. So touchscreen ticket vending machines are not really what people want. Buying the ticket at the driver, even less. So this is where we get significant market share already through that. And then secondly, we have the basis for new, more flexible pricing models that are also in high demand because there is more part-time commuting, a lot of uncertainty, and this sort of pay-as-you-go is in very high demand to keep customers in the public transport world or gaining them back into it.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you for joining, and we will continue these conversations in the networking zone right after this.
Thank you.
All right, it's time for our second pitch. So when getting vehicles from A to B, there's always A to Z factors to consider, from traffic jams to driver errors. Making sense of all of those variables to give more accurate arrival time predictions is a company from Australia called ArriveBy. And to tell us more about ArriveBy, please welcome Dave. Dave, welcome to the club.
Because I'm Australia, but I'm Dave Pepworth and I'm the founder of ArriveBy. ArriveBy is customized delivery and technology. Somewhat be providing superior customer service and building out their brand. At home for a package that arrived or arrived. That takeaway meal you ordered last week that arrived cold. What about if you run a business and you want to know how many people you do deliveries or reduce your carbon by minimizing the number of vehicles you use? With the right businesses mitigate this.
Dave, we've lost you. The sound quality wasn't great then anyway. I tell you what we'll do. I think we got most of your pitch, but I think we might have missed some of the key parts. So let's see if we can come back to that with the better Wi-Fi connection. And in the meantime, we'll jump into our next startup. So to design efficient and effective public transport routes, it's critical that transport providers understand how we travel and what our needs are. With a smart solution to share that information in a secure way. From Travel AI, please welcome Peter. Peter, good to see you.
Hi, I've just noticed that picture you've got of me is a little bit out of date. Hi, I'm Peter from Travel AI. I've got an 8-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old boy, and every day I walk them through our quiet residential neighbourhood and then just onto the high road to school. 2 weeks ago, the council changed the timing of the traffic lights at that junction just onto the high road. At rush hour, it's changed that quiet residential road into some sort of parade of 40 vehicles perfectly lined up and at just the right time to spew out pollutants at all of those kids walking past on their way to school. It's nuts, right? Who would knowingly make that change? The truth is that they don't know. The information just isn't there. I mean, even if there were sensors to measure the traffic in that residential road, which there aren't, there still wouldn't be any data on the pedestrians and the fact that they're kids on their way to school. And it's the same across the country. Transport decisions are having to be made in data darkness. Think about it. We've all got great knowledge of the routes that we travel. But when have you ever been asked about what could be better? MyWays is a new kind of travel survey by Travel AI that automatically detects your journeys and asks for your opinions on the routes and issues that are relevant to you. By adapting to the experience of each one of us, it lets traffic authorities and transport operators make better transport decisions based around how we actually travel. Our clients avoid the expense, delays, and errors of traditional paper-based surveys. They distribute our app to their respondents, and then the app automatically creates a travel diary by detecting route and mode of transport without any input from the respondent. The client can issue questionnaires at any time and compose them to specific groups based on their travel behavior. So, want to investigate the quality of a particular bus route? No problem. Send a questionnaire to just the people that have used that service in the past month. And because they're being asked about issues that are highly relevant to them, their engagement and quality of responses is much higher. MyWays is just one way that Travel AI can help transport organizations get customer focus. Thank you.
Peter, well done there. And I have to say, I love that photo that you had before. Was that pre-COVID or?
That was about it was at my wedding just over 10 years ago.
You got an 8-year-old now. Hey, I love what you're doing here with Travel AI, and I think it's a powerful solution. But in some ways, it's a solution to a very long-standing and pretty universal problem. Why now? What's made it possible to solve it now?
Yeah, so with MyWays, respondents don't have to record journeys manually and are asked about issues that are personally relevant to them. So MyWays gets much higher engagement from many more people. The key innovation that enables all of this is that ability to automatically detect routes and mode of transport without the user having to enter information. And that's really hard to do. We've been developing it for a few years. We're one of the first to launch a commercial service, and one of only a handful of companies that have this kind of capability. But think about it. I guess that's really an answer to why us. The proper answer to why now is probably even more interesting. We're at a transformational stage in transport. There are 19,000 changes that local authorities are making to the road network now due to coronavirus alone. Public transport capacity has been slashed, and if all of those journeys switch to car, then it will be gridlock. Meanwhile, we've got e-scooter, mobility as a service trials launching up and down the country. And in May, the DfT announced a $2 billion investment in walking and cycling. So with all of that, with all of those changes, I think there's only two ways that this can go. Either we'll have initiatives that were well-intentioned but never understood the public's needs, so end up being underused, or we'll involve the public from the outset and build these new services around them and the data so that we can effect long-term changes that make our communities safer, cleaner, and more convenient.
Very cool. Thank you for joining, Peter. We'll keep talking in the networking and expo zones right after this. But right now, it's time to move on to our fourth company. So 3 down, 3 to go. There's lots of different predictions about when fully self-driving cars will be on our roads. But one thing is for sure, it's not a matter of if, but when. So helping to accelerate the transition from Phantasma, please welcome Rama. Rama, welcome to the club.
Great. Can you hear me well?
We can.
Great. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Rama from Phantasma Labs. And at Phantasma Labs, we are helping self-driving cars understand human behavior better. As of today, self-driving cars are not yet ready for urban environments, as they don't understand the millions of ways in which we humans interact. But for automotive companies to overcome this, they need data on the edge cases, the crazy behaviors that we humans cause before their cars can safely drive in the real world. If we follow the current approach, we need to have cars driving 1 million miles in the real world. And there are perhaps hundreds of millions of different edge cases out there that can happen in the world. It'll take us a century to collect data of all these edge cases from real-world driving alone, and will cost us hundreds of billions of dollars. At Phantasma, we have a technology that can make this happen 10 times faster and 10 times cheaper. We offer simulation as a service to make self-driving cars a reality. So the way we do this is by building massive simulations of urban spaces, where we crowdsource real people who act as virtual participants, like a person driving a bike or a person driving an e-scooter or any other urban participant you can imagine. These crowdsourced people who interact on a simulation platform, generate the crucial human behavior data sets needed to train the self-driving cars. Human behavior data sets and human behavior models, which we generate, give car companies the key missing link that's holding them back from deploying self-driving cars to the mass market. Providing them with human behavior data sets, which they are already using to train the self-driving cars. We have a team of simulation engineers, AI experts, and automotive experts who are enabling this kind of technology. And our team has built one of the world's largest pedestrian dynamic simulations, where we simulated 2 million pedestrians interacting at the same time in Mecca. We are backed by some of the world's well-known investors, and we're currently looking for collaborations with automotive companies in the form of POCs to help them understand human behaviors better so that their self-driving cars can hit the market very soon. Thank you.
Very cool. So, Rama, tell me, obviously there's a lot going on in this space. Who are your competitors and how are you different to what they're doing?
So in terms of competition, we have two main streams of competition. So first of all, it's the companies that go out in the real world and get data from either real fleets of cars or CCTV cameras. And the second competition we have is classical simulation companies. So with regard to competitors like companies that go and get data from real world by driving, as I told you, they need to drive a lot of miles to get even one edge case, because edge cases per se don't happen that frequently. And the current numbers say that they have to drive at least 1 million miles to get one edge case, and the sole cost of driving 1 million miles can be up to a few hundreds of thousands of euros. So you have other simulation-based companies, classical simulation companies that can simulate large crowds in stadiums and in airports. But these simulation companies cannot offer their services for autonomous driving industry because you don't see that kind of a crowd movement in urban spaces, number one. And second of all, since the classical simulation companies have been focusing on large crowds, the simulation software they provide, they can't represent edge cases that can happen in real world. So we have found a balance between the real world collection of data and generation of data from simulation alone by having crowdsourced people who interact in our simulations to generate these edge case data sets.
Great. Well, look, thanks for joining, Rama. We'll catch up with you in the networking zone right after this. And of course, if you're interested in Phantasma, then check them out in the expo booth as well. Thanks for joining. All right, we heard earlier from Ivan about the work that Nissan is doing with the innovation labs. We're now going to hear from two of the companies that have been part of the lab system. And like what we've just heard, we've been talking about safety in autonomous vehicles, but what about improving the safety of human drivers? Well, an AI approach to helping people to be better drivers is Alice Car. And from Alice, please welcome Jonathan. Jonathan, welcome to the club.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Eliscar. We're based in Paris, and Eliscar was founded in 2016. Eliscar is a startup specialized in data analytics applied to the automotive world with a focus on road safety. Our mission, saving lives on the road while cutting costs for companies. With the help of cutting-edge artificial intelligence technologies, we help drivers to drive better and safer with only the help of his smartphone. Doing so, we also help companies to drastically reduce their costs. How? By reducing their fuel consumption, insurance premiums, and more generally, their total costs of ownership. As I told you, our approach is unique as we offer all this technology using only the smartphone of the user. No device that you must buy for each vehicle of your fleet, since you already have a GPS, an accelerometer, and all the technologies needed already present in your smartphone. The user even receives real-time voice alerts from his smartphone while driving as soon as our AI algorithm detects any inappropriate driving behavior. Using a gamification approach, we organize team or individual contests to challenge drivers within a fleet to always improve their driving skills. And of course, we offer many, many more functionalities within our web application for fleet managers. For them, automation is key. Our tools are made for them to have a great impact on their fleet with a single click of a button. They can. We have accumulated already millions of miles from our. We have the technology that will help companies to get back on track with the finances, especially during these difficult times we are going through. Thank you very much.
John, this sounds like a really needed piece of technology and something that can, deliver quite significant improvements to the whole industry, but especially driver safety. Talk me through, though, how does this work with GDPR?
Right. So, of course, we are fully compliant with GDPR. All our solutions are. For this, we need to ensure multiple things. First, we need to be 100% sure that the user is actually driving his professional vehicle, not in a bus, a taxi, or a friend's vehicle. How do we do it? Using a beacon. So it's a small device, a small Bluetooth device that sends a unique signal that allows us to identify the professional vehicle with 100% guarantee. Secondly, we need to be sure that we are recording the trips only during office hours on business days. We allow this with a schedule of recording that the user has access to and can modify anytime. Third, we make sure that the user has full control over the data he generates. He can turn on or off the tracking feature right from his app with a single button at any time. He can even erase a trip if he made a private trip, for example, and it's not for business purpose. Also, on the manager side, we will have no individual data unless disclosed with initially when we deployed our solution through the fleet, but no individual data. The manager can create teams of 5, 6 drivers, and this will allow full confidentiality while having the ability to track very precisely which team needs to improve and act accordingly. For large companies working with us right now, so in France, Netherlands, Belgium, or even Indonesia, all are using this idea of the great advantage that is of using teams instead of individual data to avoid any issue regarding GDPR. Of course, we can discuss it more in the expo zone or networking area.
Perfect. Well, let's do that. But thank you for joining, Jonathan.
Thank
and
you.
Well done with where you got to with Eliscar. Very impressive.
Thank you very much.
All right. That's 5 down. We've got one more company to go. And we're going to turn our attention to corporate travel and company cars. With sustainability now firmly on the agenda of every corporate, our next startup is offering an even greener, cheaper, and more flexible solution. From Ways to Go, please welcome Vincent. Vincent, welcome to the club. Oh, just try clicking on that blue button there, Vincent, to share your audio and video. You might need to click it one more time. If you try clicking share audio and video, Vincent, again, or a quick refresh of the screen if you need to. It's been so seamless so far. Let's see if we can get Vincent back in. There we go.
That's better now.
All right, Vincent, well done. You've made it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're good to go.
Good afternoon, everyone. So when you think of company cars, you think of legacy employee benefit. 60% of cars on the road in Europe are made of company cars, yet they're heavily subsidized by taxpayers to the tune of 32 billion. They pollute twice as much as passenger cars. They're mostly diesel and travel twice the mileage. In the current context, over the next 5 years, 12 million cars are going to get kicked out of city centers for all the reasons we've heard over the last few years. And particularly in the current climate whereby flexible working arrangement will become the new norm, we don't believe that the average whereby cars are parked 95% of the time is going to get any better. Ways to Go is basically a multimodal mobility wallet alternative to the company car. It provides pan-European inventory of public transport, micromobility, and shared private transportation, particularly four wheels, which my team and I have come from the four wheels environment. You combine that multimodal app with a card, which is basically connected to the app, but also to the travel policy of the company and also to the basically expense management solution. So in other words, you drop the car and you basically get this app with your car allowance, let's say 7 or 10,000 euro, whatever it is, and you can use it right across Europe with you and your family or designated beneficiaries, as opposed to the car that again sits in your garage or the office car park 95% of the time. We launched in February, and we now have 2 customers and 10 more in our pipeline, and are in the process of fundraising £1 million to get this over the line. That's basically ways to go. Thank you.
Great stuff. And that's exciting about the fundraising coming up. Vincent, obviously, as you're approaching that, who are your competitors? I'm interested, like, what makes Ways to Go unique?
Most mobility as a service applications are focused on B2C. They're basically city apps, very focused on public transport, or B2G apps. Let's think an example like City Mapper for B2C, or B2G would be an app like Move It, which you might have heard of. Our solution will basically combine the wallet with the public transport, but importantly, the 4 wheels inventory, which is missing from these players. And we know the company car is a very stiff competitor. It's very convenient, but the cost of the car has gone up significantly with taxes rising right across Europe for users. So basically, the uniqueness of this application is 4 wheels, public transport, micromobility combined with the card and the expense management solution to make sure that it's compliant with travel policy and basically the tax on the back end. Sounds boring, but very important to the stakeholders we're talking to in large corporates.
Absolutely. Cool. Thanks for joining, Vincent. We'll catch up with you more in the expo booth. And of course, we can talk in networking as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
There we go, folks. Thank you to all 6 startups for those pitches that have hopefully given you a glimpse into the future and some practical solutions to take mobility to the next level in your company and across the industry. Just before we head over to networking, here's a quick heads up on what's coming up in SixSixty over the coming weeks. Our next session is going to be on the 5th of November, where we'll be hosting our regular Innovation session. Most of you here are involved in innovation in some way in your organization, and these sessions are a great opportunity to connect and learn from peers who are from various industries who are transforming their corporates to be more innovative and more agile at this time. So do join that. That's once a month, the first Thursday of every month, and the next session is on the 5th of November there. We're going to be looking at tools and technologies to help you scale innovation, and we're going to be joined by the team from Airbus, who will be talking about how they're driving innovation across their organization as well. So an interesting take on mobility for you as well. On the 11th and 12th of November, if you're interested in marketing, we're heading to MadFest, where we'll be bringing you the hottest marketing startups who are changing the game for companies like Diageo and McCormick, who will be sharing briefs, and then the startups will be pitching against those briefs. And then again, if you're interested in retail, there's an event on the 19th of November that we're running as well that could be a great opportunity to engage your colleagues who might be involved in the retail part of your business. All right, you've heard from the pitches. Now it's time to head over to the networking zone, where you can meet other club members. It's really fun. It's a 3-minute rotation. There's some really interesting people to meet here. So please do use the 20 minutes that's blocked out in your calendar to engage with them. And then there's also the chance to find out more about the companies who have pitched. So if you head to the expo zone, you can talk to the companies that have pitched, click on the connect button, and be linked to them as well. So right now, thank you for joining. If you've got any suggestions on how we can make SixSixty even more relevant to you, I'd love to hear from you. Drop me an email. But for now, I will see you in the networking zone, and we'll look forward to chatting there. All right, bye.